Hi guys, I hope you're all keeping well and safe. Welcome to Early Years Matters TV. On this channel, we focus on early childhood, we give parenting tips, and we also review toys. If these are the kind of things you're looking for, what you have to do is subscribe, and not just subscribe, turn on your notification bell so that you'll be the first person to be notified each time a new video is being dropped on this channel. So on today's episode of Early Years Matters TV, I'm going to be talking about how to support children with English as an additional language in your early childhood setting. Yes, today's discussion is going to be all about how you as the educators could support children that English is not their first language in your setting. You all know in the area of early childhood, diversity is being represented with children from different backgrounds, with children that English is not their first language, with children with different abilities and with different needs. And it is your role as educators to be able to support children. But today's focus is going to be all about how you as the educator could support children that English is not their first language. Okay, now let's dive into it. Language. Yes, it is important that you use minimal language when you're communicating with children that English is not their first language. Use simple sentences, use simple words that they will be able to grab easily until when they are now comfortable to speak English. Yes, it is important as educators, if you're communicating with children that English is not their first language, use minimal language that they will be able to understand. Use simple sentence and keywords. This is important. Okay, you need to cultivate the habit of using keywords and simple sentences until then when the children are comfortable with speaking English. You need to understand that these children that we're talking about, children that English is not their first language, they are not used to speaking English. Okay, so they're just going to be taking on English as a second language, and it's important that you have to communicate with them. And when you want to communicate with them, you need to take note of this. Use keywords and simple sentences that they will be able to understand. Like for instance, you could say, you can get your bag. It's simple. Go your shoe. Bring your cup. You can see those are simple things that this group of children will be able to understand. So it's important, the way to go about supporting children that English is not their first language in your setting is use keywords and simple sentences. Take note of this first tip, all right? Okay, so the second tip that I'm going to share today in relation to supporting children that English is not their first language is use visual aids. Yes, use visual aids to support what you're saying. It's really important. Use visual aids. For instance, if you want them to tie their shoelaces, show them a picture of what tying their shoelaces is, and you say, tie your shoelaces, and you show them. Put on your coat. Show them a visual representation of what you want them to do. You need to understand that children don't really understand English. They are just learning English, and it's important that if you want them to do something, they need to see a visual representation of what you want them to do. So it's important. One of the ways you could also support children that English is not their first language in your setting is use visual aids. Show them a visual representation of what you want them to do. If you want them to go out to play, show them a picture of outdoor space. If you want them to have their lunches, show them a picture of children eating their lunches. If you want them to tie their shoelaces, show them a picture of children tying their shoelaces. So then they'll be able to understand that this is what you want them to do. You could also use puppet and storybooks as well. They are great for supporting children that English is not their first language. You know, if you're reading a story, you're using a puppet as well, so they'll be able to understand. They see, like, puppet is also a visual representation, so they'll be able to make a connection between the storytelling and the puppet as well. And picture books are also great as well. You know, like I said earlier, these children, they are just learning to use what, so they would see a picture book, like you're reading a story, they look at the picture book, then they'll be able to between the story that you're telling them and the pictures, because the pictures see from the picture what the story is all about. So take note of this as well. You could also use supporting children that English is not their first language in your setting. All right. So another way you could support children that English is not their first language in your setting is encourage them to engage in play. Yes, it's important. You know the role of play in relation to early childhood. Children learn through play, and when they are learning through play, it's going to help in terms of their physical, intellectual, language, emotional, social, spiritual, and the cultural aspects of the child. So encourage children that English is not their first language to be able to engage in play, because when they engage in play, they are learning from other children. Other children are using what they'll be able to learn from this group of children as well. I've seen this in the past in relation to when working in the area of early childhood. I've seen children come into the setting realizing that English is not their first language, but from this group of children mixing with other children, they learn to use the words that this group of children are using as well. So it's important in relation to supporting children in your setting that English is not their first language. Ensure that you encourage them to play, not just even playing alone. Encourage them to mix with other children, group play, okay? Encourage them to play with other children as well, because when they play with other children, they'll be able to learn words. They'll be able to pick words from this group of children. And it's also into consideration that children that English is not their first language, sometimes when they come into the setting, they're always withdrawn. And they're being withdrawn because they kind of like feel that they don't belong into the setting. And it's important that as an educator, you make sure that they feel welcome. And that's why it's important when it's time for them to play, encourage them to mix up with other children as well. You as the educator, engage in their play as well, because from engaging in their play, you're encouraging them to engage, working as a member of a team, corporate play as well. And from this group of children playing, they'll be able to pick words from other children as well in terms of their language, and which would help them in relation to their English as well. So take note of the other way you could also support children that English is not their first language in your early childhood setting. Take note of this as well. All right. Also support children that English is not their first language in your setting is celebrate their culture. Yes, it is important that you as educators, you need to make sure that the environment is welcoming for children that English is not their first language. You need to ensure that they feel belonging to the setting, because when they feel belonging to the setting, that's the only time that they can thrive. So it's important that you celebrate their culture as well. In relation to celebrating their culture, it could be like a cultural day, okay, which you celebrate all culture in the setting. And when you do this, you're promoting inclusion, okay? So you're promoting inclusion. You're not focusing on one culture than the other. So it's important. Another way you could support children that English is not their first language is celebrate their culture, have a multicultural day. It could also be having their languages and having what it could be a language such as good morning, hello. Just start from there. Have hello or good morning and paste it around your wall, paste it in your classroom, okay? So which would have a representation of different languages. And when you do this, all the children in the setting are learning other languages as well. Let's say, for instance, if you have 12 children in the room, so that means 12 languages. The children will be able to say hello in 12 different languages. So it's important, if you want to support children that English is not their first language in your early childhood setting, celebrate their culture, let them feel welcome, celebrate all the culture in the setting. And when you do this, the children will be able to see that they and which would help them in relation to how they learn and grow together. This is important. And lastly, if you want to support children that English is not their first language in your setting, you need to collaborate with a parent. Yes, you need to work with a parent. I need to let you know, and I'm sure you also know, that children, primary caregiver of their children, they know their children best. And it's important, if you want to support children that English is not their first language, you need to collaborate with a parent, have a discussion with a parent. How can you support the children in your setting? Take on board their advice as well. What are the things give to you in relation to how you can support their children? So I hope you saw this from me today in relation to how you could support children that English is not their first language in your setting. And if you want more of this on this channel, what do you have to do? Subscribe, and not just subscribe, turn on your notification bell so that you'll be the first person to be notified each time a new video is being dropped on this channel. Until I come your way next time, stay safe and mind yourselves for now. Bye.